So you've been diagnosed with cancer 3 times. Tell us the story.
Like, this is not good, and keep thinking to myself, not my brain, not my brain, but it's my brain. They said they can't give a prognosis. The statistics are worthless. Do I have a fighting chance? And he says, absolutely. That's all I needed to hear. We have a fighting chance. He was expected to live less than 6 months. He lasted 6.5 years.
Welcome back to Kicking Cancer's Ass, the podcast giving people insight, inspiration, and practical advice to flip the script on cancer and take control. I'm Joelle Kaufman, and today we're talking about when a patient defies the diagnosis with my friend Jeffrey Eisenberg. He's navigated a series of cancer curveballs and achieved the coveted cancer-free diagnosis. Welcome, Jeffrey, to Kicking Cancer's Ass.
Thank you, Joel.
All right, so you've been diagnosed with cancer 3 times. Tell us the story.
Wow. It's a story. During the pandemic, I went in, I got a colonoscopy, and they said, "Oh, we detected cancer." And I went ahead and I went in, and I thought this would be the most routine thing in the world. I was scared, but I wasn't really scared. My wife had had something similar happen a year before.
Okay.
And so um, I said, "Oh, okay, so we're going to do this." And I got the surgery. It was stage 1. Should have been all clean, but it wasn't because I woke up with an ileostomy bag.
How did
Um,
that happen? Like, how did that surprise? And by the way, beyond your wife, you've told me you are not a stranger to cancer. You're like me. Like, how many times have you danced with this demon?
Endless. My parents, my grandmother, my aunts, friends, too many people.
Right.
Too many people. Close people. Um, And, in fact, the cancers I had later, we're gonna talk about 3 times, but the cancers I had later had lymphoma in them, and both my parents died from a form of lymphoma.
Yeah, that's got to be really
So,
scary.
yeah. So anyway, I did a prep, and when I've done colonoscopy preps, I have a what they call a tortuous intestine. Intestine means I have a lot of guts.
Mm,
Long, and so I take a longer time to cleanse, and I do 2 preps, and it's nasty stuff.
yeah.
Anyway, so the night before, my wife, who's my best advocate, calls up the nurse of the surgeon and says, "He hasn't totally cleaned out. What do we do?" And she said, "Oh, it's not gonna be any problem. It's not gonna be any problem." And I went in and, I had the surgery, and it seems that it burst. My intestines burst um,
Yuck.
with there,
With
yuck,
waste, right?
with waste. And so they couldn't close me up because they were worried about an infection. And so I had an ileostomy bag for about 4 months. It was, it was worse than all the other things I'm going to tell you. It was the worst experience of my life. It was really awful. It's not even, people think of, all sorts of things. I won't describe it. Look at,
Okay.
yeah,
The only
it's,
thing we can say is it was 4 months, so it was temporary for you.
yes, but they wouldn't tell me that it was absolutely temporary. They thought it would be temporary.
So I'm glad it
Y
was.
right, it was, all I have is pain from the scar. So
Okay.
that's what I have, and really bad memories,
Yeah, clearly.
right?
Clearly.
But,
Okay. So we go through this nightmare of
go
it's
through this, and this is
COVID, we have this surgery, it doesn't quite go right, you have the bag, then they get rid of the bag,
yeah, and so
and life
and
goes
then
on.
a few months later, I'm at my oncologist, and I say, "It hurts. The scar hurts," and, she looks and she thinks maybe I have a hernia. And so there's a surgeon, and he's gonna do a hernia operation, and, like, that's pretty normal.
Now are you
But
back in Austin now? Because
I'm back
where
in
is
Austin. I'm back in
okay,
Austin. Yeah, yeah. I live in Austin, so
I
I'm
know,
I'm I'm
but
in Austin.
some of your surgery was at MD, right?
Yes, I'll
Okay.
get through it. And so most of this is in Austin. Remember, this is during the pandemic time,
Yeah, no
so
one's
it's
going
really
anywhere.
hard to go anywhere. We're all feeling okay. Um, and so I had when I woke up, they said we have bad news. And I was like, "What do you mean bad news?"
What a
And
great way to wake up.
yeah, anyway, so, they said, "We send something out. We think that it's cancer." And, by the next day, they had confirmed that. And so I was like, "Oh, man, okay." And, it was, um, the large B-cell lymphoma, whatever it's called.
Yep.
Um, so, I was like, "Okay." This time, my wife said, "No, we're doing MD Anderson."
Get in the car.
We got in touch. The pandemic is sort of ending at this point. We're almost through that. In between, I had a little time to celebrate. There's a picture of me at the Apple store with my brother and my nephew, and like I'm feeling good. Everything's going to be okay, right? And so we have we try and get into MD Anderson, and at MD Anderson, they wanted to get me into a clinical trial because I thought I was in reasonable shape. I could do this, and between insurance and the fact that procedures had changed so much during the pandemic, the person who got sick, because everything has to be like, you need to do this within so many weeks and this
Mhm.
in a clinical trial. And it worked out in such a way that I wasn't eligible unless I started all the tests all over again. And by this point, the lymphomas are very aggressive.
Right.
And I was feeling horrible. And so finally, my wife speaks with my doctor at MD Anderson, and he says, "Okay, we're gonna just get him admitted. We're gonna admit him today." And of course, I'm there and I'm ready to collapse. I'm terrible shape.
So, Jeffrey, hold on. You were physically like, it was hitting you physically, or was that physically and mentally?
No, physically. The lymphoma was spreading,
Okay.
and we were waiting to start with this clinical trial. The clinical trial might have actually been uh, a slightly worse treatment plan. But this clinical trial, the reason my doctor wanted to get me into it is he was working on, he had very high expectations of the cure rate on
Efficacy.
it, right? Of the efficacy of it. And he was like, this is not the first of this trial. We've done several rounds of this, and we really think this would be a strong thing for you to do. But I'm getting sick,
Mhm.
okay, and I'm weak. And so, Mia calls one morning and he says, "Cool, can you get him to Houston?" And Austin is about 3.5 hours from Houston.
Right.
Can you get him here by lunchtime? And this was, of course, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And she said, yes, figured out what to do with the dog. And she made it happen. And we went there. And of course, I didn't get admitted till like 11:30 at night. Right. And I'm there and anyway, that's just a part of it. I went in, barely remember. I remember pieces. I remember a really nice nurse. Not no, I'm sorry, forgive me, a really nice doctor, um, saying to me that everything is gonna be okay. Now you're in the hospital. And I'm thinking I must have already been like not okay.
Right.
But here's what I remember. She had an interesting accent, and I speak Spanish as my first language. My family's from Argentina, and, I said, "Where are you from?" And she said, "Oh, I'm from Texas." And so people on the border have these interesting accents because 'cause they're fully bilingual, but it's an accent I hadn't heard before, and I said to her, um, "Sana, sana," which is there's a little thing you say to little kids when you're gonna get better, and it's sana, sana. And in Argentina, it's culito rana. Si no sanará hoy, sanará mañana. And it's just a nice little thing you say to kids, and you give them a kiss, and they're gonna feel better. And she said it for me.
Oh.
Okay, I remember this. I don't remember the name of this doctor.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's
but I
just
remember. Okay,
compassion.
yeah, it was great. I go in. I spend a couple of days. They do the chemo, and then it's kind of the normal course of chemo, but I was just in such bad shape. It seems I needed another transfusion. And I leave there and I've set it up with my oncologist to do the treatments here in
Austin.
Austin. And I'm deathly afraid of needles, or I was more deathly. It was a real thing for me. And you start to get really hard to stick after a while.
So, did you get a port, Jeffrey?
I got I first had a port in my arm.
Okay.
Okay. And so they did this port in my arm, and I was able to do stuff here in Austin, and I got the chemo that way, and I did it every, I think, third week. And you realize that you leave and you feel pretty bad, and then that second week is killer. Just about as you're starting to recover a little bit, they knock you down again.
You started
And
again. Yeah.
yes, and and it just beats the crap out of you. And so I do all these rounds,
Mhm.
um, and I get through it, and um, we get through it, and they're not ready to take that port out. So
Mhm.
I had this port for a while. I remember saying, I really want it out. If I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be okay. And so finally, my doctor agreed to get it out. Um, and again, I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to go out and walk again. I'm starting to do things as life is. And it's about 5 or 6 months later, I start to feel a little off balance. I start holding on to, like, in the shower, in order
Mhm.
to wash my hair, I put one hand up against the wall while I do this, right?
Mm.
I'm less steady. And I started to feel this just imbalance. And and so we finally, called back in. They don't know what it is. They actually don't, because it's not part of what I have, right?
Okay.
It's not a normal lymphoma symptom. And so I go into I go in through the emergency room, okay? Um, and they're trying to diagnose me, and they do an MRI, and they do all this stuff. And in the meantime, he has tried to get me into MD Anderson. Okay, like, so we're trying to work that out. Um, but they find that there's actually a tumor in my brain. And they gave me, at that point, they give me a steroid.
Mhm.
I gotta tell you, I never by life felt better than when I was on that steroid.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, like, steroids are immune system boosters. They make you feel better quick.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was work that we were in the middle of. There was a consulting client gig that we were doing, and I chewed through it. We were like, I was feeling great. But
Mhm.
how do you get me to MD Anderson? You can't be admitted from one hospital to another without an ambulance. And it was, I went in an ambulance to Houston finally. It was
Ugh.
an ordeal to work out and figure out. Yeah, yeah. If you leave, it becomes whether insurance will be reimbursed. It's a insurance is no fun during this, but like, knock on wood, we had good insurance and we were able to do this. And so I go to MD Anderson, and they confirm something that they weren't really telling me yet. So I'm in MD Anderson, and they said, um, this is a tumor. It's about 2 centimeters long, so just under an inch. It's kind of in back of my
Mhm.
head.
Mhm.
And they start talking about whether they're going to do a biopsy. They start talking about all sorts of stuff, right? And there are neurosurgeons, and I mean, there's this huge committee of people around me, and I'm like, this is not good, and keep thinking to myself, not my brain,
Right.
um, not my brain, okay, but it's my brain. And so when they finally figure it out, and they come to a real conclusion, um, they they said they can't give a prognosis.
That had to feel horrible.
I can't tell you how it felt. At the time, there was partially numbness and partially, it's hard to describe what the feeling is, how real it feels or how real it doesn't feel. Um, but again, Mia does a lot of filtering for me. I'm very sensitive. Okay. I understand.
Mhm.
But part of that is something called sensory processing disorder. Okay. Which today is diagnosed for kids all the time. It's considered one of those spectrum things,
Mhm.
and you can deal with a lot of it with physical therapy and whatnot. Um, I had a diagnosis as an adult and whatever, and I know that this sensitivity is physically real.
Mhm.
And so um, I let Mia talk through a lot of things because if I imagine things, I can wind myself up into fainting.
'Kay.
Right. So Mia does a lot of the sorting through this. And when she finally says, okay, now we can tell Jeffrey, what they really tell me to bottom line it is um the danger of this. This is the lymphoma. That's the first
Mhm.
time I hear that this is the lymphoma. And that the lymphoma has spread into my brain and that that's unusual. And that there's a barrier, blood-brain barrier.
Right.
Okay, it also exists in your genitalia, but that's not a problem because that they could deal with, there's surgical ways they could deal with that, but when you're talking about the brain, they don't know, and, if they can't get the chemo to cross the barrier, and they can't give me a prognosis, and all they can talk about is maybe there's some experimental things that they can do. But it's pretty clear that I'm probably like I'm not going to be having experiments done on my brain.
'Kay.
And I I kind of said I said to Mia, if we got to go to experimenting on my brain, we're just going to call it.
Now, I'm gonna pause you a second. When in this sojourn, I know Mia and you have been together a long time, but I don't
Hmm.
think you were actually married the whole time.
So it's funny. We own a house together.
Right.
She has um, a biological son that I've raised as my kid too,
Yep.
even though his father's in the picture. And we never married because we owned a house together. We did everything together. Texas is a common law state. We were like, that feels very formal. But I have a friend who's an attorney, and he said, it's just not as clear as you think it is. And we said, what do you mean? And he says, if something happens, if an insurance company, if an heir, if some he said, if you were married, there's no question. And I said, but
Mhm.
we're married. And I said, I looked up this thing online and said, you can sign these contracts that prove it. And he was, yeah, you can do all that. And it can take months or years. Your wife has to have the absolute power of attorney, things that wives have that, I have my brother and I didn't,
Yeah.
I love my brother and I didn't expect, but you never know. And I wanted Mia to have the absolute last say because she knew what I wanted.
So is
And
this
so,
the same time, like, as you're getting this news, you're
yeah,
realizing this?
yeah. So, um, um, we do one treatment and we don't know that anything's happening. And we go ahead and we organize a wedding with, 8 people. Okay. My friend Russ married us. Um, uh, we travel in the same circle. You might even know Russ Summers, but you had this big output on the internet. But he could marry us according to Texas state law. And so we got married. Um, and that was an easy thing to do, but we had to put all sorts of things in order. People would be surprised at just how many things they don't have in order until you have to think about it.
Yeah.
Every bank account, every brokerage account, every this, every that. Is it does it have the right titles? Or do you have the right permissions? Do you have the passwords to things? And um, it was an ordeal. Sitting with an estate
Attorney?
attorney working through it all. It's very real.
Yeah.
These things get real.
You know,
Um,
Jeffrey, we redid our estate before I was supposed to have this prophylactic surgery.
Mhm.
And so I wanted it all buttoned up before that. And it turned out that our signing date was January 9th, and I was diagnosed with cancer in the morning, and here we are signing all these papers in the afternoon. It was almost surreal.
I would say I can imagine, but I actually can't. These are the things that I think about, and it's like, they happened, right? Like, I was there, they
Right.
happened. Um, uh, People ascribe more agency to me than I actually had. Some things just happen because, they're happening, right? And you kinda just go through that. And so we
Sure.
went through that, and,
So you and
and
Mia get married, you take care of all the paperworks, and you've had this first treatment, which they have no idea if it's gonna work.
would have no idea. And the deal was you have to when you go in this treatment, I mean, this one chemical that they use that nobody can touch you. Nobody could like it's so toxic that they all wear this stuff, and then you have to pass it in your urine test, you actually have to pass it. And so I think the first time I was in the hospital, I was in there, I don't know, whatever, 15, 16 days, something like that. Um, and so I come out and I got to go home for a week or two or whatever it was. Um, and that's when we did all this. We were driving back, you know, drive back up to Austin. Um, and I'm doing something. I mean, this is the first time that I have more agency because I'm going back and forth because that first part of being in the hospital where they were diagnosing me, that was the place where I felt trapped. See, I had
Mhm.
agency when I was doing things, but when I couldn't get a diagnosis when they were figuring this all out, you're sitting there and I'm thinking, I may never leave this hospital. Like
Mm.
I'm in a hospital room and I sometimes have a flashback to it. I've dealt with it with the EMDR therapy and stuff like that, but sometimes I just flash back to those moments where I thought I'm never leaving this room. Um,
So, like, spoiler alert, you left.
I left, I'm here.
Right.
Um, but
But that's real, and
yeah,
the waiting is the worst.
the worst. And people are coming in and out and I mean I can go on, the neurosurgeon who comes in at 5 o'clock in the morning. By the way, at this point, Mia's sleeping in my room. And a lot of
Mhm.
times that she was sleeping in my room. This neurosurgeon comes in at 5 o'clock in the morning and he wants to talk to me. And I was real worried about being extra polite, extra caring around people. We can talk about that. Um, but 5 o'clock in the morning, I said, so he wakes me up. And and he starts like, that very officious tone.
Mhm.
I did something that if you wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you might not get the best answer. I said, "Who the F are you?"
Perfect.
Okay, because he just assumed, like, he was a nurse, but he just assumed that he could start questioning me.
Right.
And I was like, "Who are you and why are you here?"
And it's
And then
5 in
he
the
went,
morning.
"Yeah, yeah, yeah," right? So, anyway, so the part of the being in a hospital like that is there are no boundaries. There's no just you have no boundaries. There's no privacy. There's no type of boundary. And so it's a terrible place.
Mhm.
Okay. But that place where we didn't know that not knowing the what are we going to do, and what they identified at that point when they decided on the treatment plan was we're going to do this. And if it works, we have we can do CAR T or we can do stem cell. We're gonna figure that out as we go along. I still don't know what CAR T is or if I'm pronouncing it right, but I don't like those details, so I won't
Yeah,
always
no
say them.
need. No need.
Um, but, they're both immunotherapy things. Um, and so, they don't do an MRI until after the second or third treatment. Mind you, I
Okay.
think I had 9.
And
And
you're, I mean, you don't feel great, but you're tolerating it. The treatment, you're tolerating it. Your immune system's holding up.
I'm doing better than most. So I never had the mouth sores again.
Good.
Knock on wood. I didn't throw up. My taste changed or things like that. I was losing weight. I was feeling poorly, but I didn't have the worst of the chemo. I mean,
Mhm.
of terrible symptoms, and I'm doing relatively well. Um, so when they do the MRI, um, and that's already, a few months in, right? Because there's 3 weeks between
Mhm.
each treatment, and each time you're staying there, and you have to pass till the urine test passed. Like I was drinking water like it was going out of fashion. Seriously, you couldn't possibly drink enough because you just had to pass the through. And it's very hard on your
Yeah.
kidneys. Um, and so somewhere after that third time that we get the news, we come back, um, and the doctor, who's a saint, and I'm not gonna give his name because I don't want him bothered or anything. But at MD Anderson, he always had the compassion to do things that I'm not sure he should have, like text us before results were in. He never made us wait. He was just
Wonderful.
okay. We got lucky because not everybody's like that.
Right.
And he says, um, the tumor shrunk. And
Good
that's what we
news.
to hear. Yeah, that changed everything because from it means that the treatment passes the blood-brain barrier,
Right.
and now we can talk about prognosis. We can start talking about this stuff. We're gonna finish the treatments. I was done
So wait a
by
minute. Let's timeline a second. You've had 2 or 3 treatments. Each treatment was every 3 weeks?
kind of, yeah.
So you're 9, 10 weeks from knowing this thing's in your brain before anyone can talk to you about prognosis.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
Um,
you find out it's shrinking.
but shrinking, which is good news. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean we're not out, but we have they give you probabilities,
Mhm.
okay? And I'm not a statistics guy. In fact, I dropped out of college when I was going in high school because the statistics class was hard, and I was an upper junior, but I didn't finish. I was making too much money trading currency, and I just didn't feel like going back, and statistics was too hard. But I've dealt with it a lot professionally, right? So I hear the statistics, and he said, and he quotes me the numbers, and I say, okay, explain to me. And I asked him about the population and stuff like that, and he starts saying, yeah, you're right. The statistics are worthless. Okay. And everybody who hears this needs to understand just one thing. They're looking at everybody.
Right, it's a
Everybody,
population study. It's not
everybody's
you.
yes, everybody's in that population. And what he said to me is, we have the 97-year-old grandma, okay, and the 20-year-old athlete, and they're all in that same population. And these studies go over decades.
Right.
Okay. We're collecting decades of data, and the treatments have actually changed.
Right.
He says they're better than they were, and people's health in some cases are better. So he says, like, what do you want to know? Okay. And I said, okay, here's what I want to know. Let's not talk about it. I said, do I have a chance? Do I have a fighting chance? And he says, absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's what I want. That's all I needed to hear. We have a fighting chance. Um, So we keep fighting. And now I have a different port, by the way. I have a port here
Chessport?
in
Yeah.
my yes. Um, um, and
I
so
loved my chessport, Jeffrey. I named it. I really loved it because I didn't have to get stuck all the time.
I have a weird I'm so sensitive that when
Mm.
as a young adult, I was 22, 23. I went to go have contact lenses fitted, and they put one in, and I fainted.
You're very sensitive.
Okay, you could imagine
This had to
this
be
poor
awful.
woman who is my age, who has to deal with me fainting,
Right.
okay? and it's not unheard of. If you talk to enough
Well,
people, you'll see that this is like it's not 1 in 1,000. It's like,
right.
there's a small percentage of people who are this sensitive. And so
Well, and
everything
Jeffrey, wait a minute.
yeah.
People can't tell on the podcast, but you're not a small guy. Like,
No, no,
you're a
look, I've ever
tall
been
man.
6'2", 250. Yeah, I'm a big when I go down, I went down heavy. Uh,
Right.
so, anyway, in fact, during this whole ordeal, I have so many stories. During this whole ordeal, I go back to when they do the ileostomy reversal,
Yeah.
the big event is you actually have to pass a stool,
Right.
okay? And so I'm in the hospital, I finally do that, and I come out and I code blue.
Oh, God.
Okay. They call it code blue. What that means for I didn't know. That means is they think I'm dying,
Right.
passed out. Okay. Mia pushed me up against the wall so that I'd come down with the wall instead of just
Uh-huh.
forward. But I went down. And it's the vagus nerve.
Ah.
Right. So, I learned afterwards that sometimes women who menstruate have exactly the same thing. It's where the vagus nerve passes and it can cause that. And it's just whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I'm really sensitive. So when I say that I have a hate life, I had to have real intensive EMDR, which is a trauma therapy,
Mhm.
and it's very common for first responders, these kind of people where it's not a lot of talk therapy, but it's great for medical stuff. I had done it for years in other ways, but it's really great for this type of
And
trauma.
my understanding with EMDRs, it's also fairly fast, like, it's
Very fast,
efficient.
very fast. And sometimes you can have the effect right away. Unfortunately, and I'm from the East Coast originally, um, New York and California mental health professionals like it less
Huh.
because they tend to like talk therapy more. And so they use it less in their therapies. It's not that they don't. And of course, these very large populations, but it's a thing, right? Because I've told people about it and friends in New York and friends in California, and they've tried to look for really good therapists. And sometimes it's been a little hard. It's not impossible and it's worth
Yeah,
digging.
it's a really
Right.
people don't even know that EMDR exists, but it's very effective for
Very,
trauma,
yeah. I mean,
both capital T trauma and little t trauma.
yeah. I mean, my wife worked with one because she couldn't talk to anybody. She couldn't talk about what was going on. Okay.
Why
And
not? Why she didn't
um, because this was very traumatic for her, right? This I
okay,
mean, imagine this going on.
I can.
You have to leave her job, right? Like, for somebody else,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
As opposed to herself. And so, she left her job. She's pretty well-paid executive.
Wow,
Um,
did she go on leave or did she resign
oh,
to care for you?
she resigned. Uh,
Wow.
we didn't know what the timetables were. Okay. Right. So, um, she did the EMDR. It was also very effective for her to be able to deal with that type of trauma. So yeah,
Sure.
it's really, really good stuff. And
So
so when I say a port or I talk about this stuff, I almost wouldn't talk to you about it standing up.
I'm glad you're sitting down because I can't
Yeah,
get to Texas and catch you.
yeah, no, and in general, it's not going to be a problem. I'm kind of exaggerating, but kind of not.
No, I
It's
get
very
it. It's a
predictable,
real issue.
real issue, right?
So
And
I
and so if having this issue, that not being stuck, okay, you have to get stuck
yeah,
no matter what. Okay, even with the port, I had to get stuck.
yeah, once instead of lots of, but once.
No, they can't use the port for these tests that they have to do.
Oh,
And anyway, I had a
okay.
vein explode in my arm. I had an IV explode in my arm, and all sorts of issues. Yeah, I'm
Was not fun. So
not
let's jump forward a little bit because you're getting the chemo and they start talking to you about something called an autologous. Is that the right word?
autologous. Is I think how it's pronounced.
Autologous autologous stem cell transplant. What is that? Did you have it?
I
What
did.
did that
Yeah.
mean?
So this is what remember I said, they started to plan treatment. They were either gonna do CAR T or a stem cell transplant. And they decided on the stem cell transplant because you can do the stem cell transplant, and if you have to, you can go back and do CAR T later, but
Okay.
you couldn't do it the other way, and that there's more actual studies on the stem cell. It's an older treatment, and we could always come back to it. So we're like, really, I'm going to do one, and I might have to come back to another. But anyway, so here's what they do. They they have to take healthy cells. So this happens. It's Octoberish of 23, and they have to harvest the cells, right? Which means they have to be able to get a certain amount of stem cells out of your body. So you're sitting there while blood goes through a machine, and it's like separating it out. And they think it's going to take maybe 2 or 3 times. I was grateful. It really only took one time. Uh, I had a, I got lucky in some ways. It sounds
So it's
math
using your own body.
own. That's why it's autologous,
Okay.
because if you have to use somebody else's, the chances of rejection are much higher. But if you have cancerous cells in your body, you can't do it. So I'm already cancer free, right?
Okay.
So they're able to harvest, and I do it in one shot, and I'm grateful because they don't have to stick me another million times. We get this done, and now um, we're fighting with the insurance company because MD Anderson isn't the hospital for me. No, I live in Austin. This is Houston. Methodist Hospital is about a half a mile closer to my home than MD Anderson. And you know that it's not have has nothing to do with the distance. MD Anderson was more expensive
Of course.
than No, Methodist Hospital is one of the 10 best hospitals in the country on
Mhm.
many things. And they're no strangers to this, and they have whole floors devoted to this and real experts. But I couldn't continue to do this with MD Anderson, which is my treatment so far. And so we're working on this transition, and the people at MD Anderson all have friends at
Methodist.
this, and we're working back and forth. And I got this incredible team, and they get this done, and they explain all this to me. And I got to tell you, you think you understand something, you don't understand anything,
Right.
um, right? Because what it is essentially now they have these your healthy stem cells, right? Normal stem cells. And what they're going to do is they're going to near kill you.
Right.
They're
They got to
going
kill your immune system.
Yeah, I mean and that's not a we use the word kill colloquially like
No.
no, like I have to have zero immune response. Like when there's no white blood count, like that's when it's safe to do it. And so it takes till like we I don't remember what day I went in, but it was December 28th, 2023 when, they sing me happy birthday and they give me back my cells. But at that point, and there are pictures, I was a shell.
Mm.
Um, there's pictures of me and I'm unrecognizable. And I'm not talking about losing my hair. I've done that a few times.
Mhm.
I'm talking about gone. And
Mhm.
it's not a nice picture. And so, yeah, they nearly kill you, and then they give you back your stem cells, and they can't let you out until they see that they've taken. So we're at least a month away from when I'm about to leave. They're telling me now that it could be March. Okay. Um, the good thing is, in most of the things where they gave me those things, I beat expectations. I was out quick.
You're an overachiever.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
You could.
This is a good kind of overachiever. Like, it's good. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
respond to treatment well. That's good.
I mean, when after, I mean, to do it, they had to give me a stress test, to even do this, right? So
Right. Make sure
they
your
wanted
heart
to
can
give me
handle
a
it.
shot to figure out whether I could withstand it. And this shot was to simulate the stress. And I was like, can't I get on a treadmill?
Right.
And I had to have two doctors come in the room because I refused.
Okay.
I had to have two doctors come in the room. And I finally said to the doctor, I said, the second doctor who was willing to listen, okay, I said, tell me, if I get on the treadmill and I can't make it work, don't you still have the option of doing the shot, this injection? And he was like, yes. He says, the man's right, but let him do the test.
Good
And
for
I did
you.
the
Way to advocate.
So I'll tell you what, did the test, got on, did it on the treadmill and did it. And a lot of these things, these are not physical strength. You don't know where it comes from,
Hmm.
right? You just get obstinate and you decide that you're going to do something. Um, but I just, and I'm going to tell you, this was not because I didn't want the sensation of not being able to control this bed in my body.
Hmm.
I just didn't want the shot.
Yeah, you don't like needles. You've made
I
it
don't like
very,
it. I
very
was
clear.
terrified. I was like, "Can we do this without a needle?" That's
Right.
all I want. That's how compelling it was. My body's completely beat up. I've had, at this point, 9 rounds of
Right.
this chemotherapy where they wipe you out, right? And, and I gotta get on a treadmill, but I got on the treadmill.
Right.
Um, and so that internal strength, right? Lots of it is fear, lots of it is obstinacy, but the main thing is that you have to advocate. I mean, there were many times where there were things that you needed to speak up about. I got a bed sore
Hmm.
because they wouldn't listen to me, and there was, there were many times where things happened. This IV exploded in my arm. They had indications, and here's the thing, this is with my wife being there a lot of the time. We are good advocates, but there's a lot that can go wrong, and these people are very diligent. This is at some of the best hospitals ever, but you're the only person who truly cares about you, okay?
Absolutely.
You, a loved one, everybody's in really bad need. Everybody needs an intense level of attention. So you have to you have to speak up, okay? But in order to speak up, you have to gain some goodwill. It's
Yep.
like really, if you're going through this, or I hope nobody ever goes through this who's watching this. You have to know that all these other people that join this profession for all the best reasons are just human beings like you.
Hmm.
And so, it was, I mean, it's part of, hopefully it's part of who I am. I like to think it's part of who I am, but there was also a conscious decision that we needed to be nice. We needed to be pleasant. If you want to get taken care of, everybody's feeling achy and tired and exhausted. And you don't get things by, you know,
Right.
banging the fist. You get things by being nice. I mean, MD Anderson had good food. Methodist had terrible. And of course, my taste buds at this point are terrible.
Right.
And they had a problem because the floor, it's like a bubble floor. You can't come on without all this stuff and you have to wash. And by the time they get coffee up to me,
It's cold.
yeah, it was, and it was not something you could have put in a microwave because when it was hot, it was miserable. There were nurses that would get me coffee from their break room
Oh,
just because I was nice to them. They would remember, and people who were just nice to me. Okay, so you want people to be nice to you, just
be nice.
yeah. I mean, I'm saying that because it's so much harder to be nice with all this going on, but that's part of it.
I
Okay, we
think
really made that extra effort and always thought about what it takes to be human. Mia did this thing, and they're on poster boards. She put 3 poster boards full of pictures, and she did it for me, so I would see pictures of my friends and my family and my dog, and I have the cutest little dog, and so people
Mhm.
would come in and they'd look and they say, "Who's this? Who's that?" Um, it humanized me.
Right.
It also made me happy to see the pictures. But it's really easy, that they're doing whatever they do to not have to keep their boundaries. They can't care too much about anybody because some of those people are never gonna make it off the floor.
Right. They have to have some
Absolutely.
emotional distance, but you wanna support them with putting deposits in their emotional bank account, be pleasant. I used to I had this set of routines I would do that I guaranteed people would start to laugh. And I'm not a comic, but, I'm a person, I'm funny, and then I remember I had one medical assistant, and she's getting me all set up for chemo and doing all the things, and I just asked her, "What's going on with you?" And she said, "Oh, I'm having this trouble with my son. He's in this school, and they wear black," which I could tell, and he's encountering racism, and I'm not getting attention from the principal." And I was like, "Well, can I help you? Can we talk this through? Can I?" Because she didn't know how to advocate, and I'm like, "Oh, you happen to have landed a patient who thinks advocating is fun. So let's talk about this." And, for the rest of my chemo, whenever I saw her, I'd check in on her son. And, that meant something to her.
Yeah,
And it made me feel like a human.
I get it. I've had feedback like that from people who said, "Yeah, I changed career paths for them. I did." So, yeah, I just don't forget,
Right, be a human.
right? Yeah. And
So
and
the transplant, it worked, but you had to stay in Houston for a long time, didn't
well,
you?
so what happens is they need to see that it's taking place. So there's a ratio of whatever with lymphocytes, blah, blah, blah. And so at some point they know that it's taken, something's happening. And the first release is they ask you to be within 5 minutes of the hospital, right? Which almost nobody can do. It means you need to kind of, we took an apartment nearby, no insurance covers that,
Right.
right? But we were in the medical center there and we rented a small apartment. And I would have to go back at first every day, then 2, 3 times a week, until and again they're doing these tests. And so here's the thing: I couldn't have any ports. Okay, uh,
Nothing that could
the danger
expose.
the danger of a port is that you're it can get infected, and I
Mhm.
don't have the ability to fight an infection.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's not maybe if I get infected, it's dangerous. It's any infection can kill me, right? So there's restrictions on food, there's restrictions on everything, right? Like at first you can't eat anything that hasn't been, like cooked to death. Um,
Mhm.
from a guy who likes a nice medium rare steak, getting
Mm.
up back. Not that I was craving medium rare steak at that point, but
Right.
um so yeah, I'm there, and again, I kind of beat it by a little bit. I exceeded expectations, but we were there for 2.5, almost 3 months, living in a little apartment in Houston. And at some point, I was starting to feel good enough that we could walk outside and stuff like that. Um, it was good. Houston's not as bad as you think it is if it's January, February. Okay.
Right.
Otherwise, it's really a hot swamp. I go back very often to get tested and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's hot, really hot. Like even Austinites think Houston is way
It's
too
hot.
hot.
Yeah.
And so, but it wasn't bad, right? And there's that medical center's in a pretty little neighborhood near Rice Village. We're here's a thing that may sound strange. I have all sorts of good memories from all of this process. I have all sorts of really bad memories, but I have all sorts of good memories because this is the other thing. And it's the main thing that I want to say to somebody. It doesn't matter because, it doesn't matter if you're worried about dying. It doesn't matter if it's just going to be routine and life sucks because some of these treatments, cancer takes a lot of form. It's not normally terminal,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of cancers for all the
Right.
disruption in your life. And I
Yeah.
had all these degrees of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. Very. Yeah.
you have to realize that you're alive right then. Okay.
Mhm.
Mm,
Right now.
right now. And if you don't take that moment to live and to enjoy and um, then what are you doing? When we were in the hospital, we had a doctor because it was over the holidays, and my doctor was a um, Maronite Christian. I think he was a bishop in his church. He was
Mhm.
married, but he was a bishop in his church, and he decided to take off over Christmas. And so he had a very nice Indian doctor who took his place. Okay. And he would come by and he would do the rounds, and he would always say to me and I, "You guys never have the TV on. You guys are always talking about something. What's so interesting? What is going on?" And we were just enjoying being together and talking. And I mean, me as my best friend. And so we were just we yeah, we never got involved in TV. First of all, it kind of sucks. Um, but second, I didn't even have the attention span for TV, right? So a lot of times we'd talk about different things. Um, Sometimes we would listen to books together. Um, and, we developed relationships. Because of that, we developed relationships. Nurses and doctors would stick on. This doctor, when he came around, they used to joke that they had to drag him out of there. And we became kind of friendly. He had never heard of Patch Adams. If
Mm.
somebody's watching this and they haven't seen the movie, at least see the movie. But when I saw the movie, I bought the book. Okay. And the
Okay.
book is so much better than the movie, which you wouldn't believe.
Right.
The movie's a masterpiece. Okay. But the book was so much better. And so I bought him a copy of Patch Adams. Um, I made him cry.
Oh.
I described it and and because I wrote out why. And the thing is I had made a connection. There was nothing there except that he was a wonderful human being and he used to like to come in and talk to us. And he would laugh with us, would make jokes. And I was like, this is one of the best parts of my day. And when he hadn't heard of it, I was like, Mia, let's borrow the book.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get him the book. And so, you know, make the connections. These are, again,
Pictures,
they're
shirt,
people. Remember
yes,
to live,
ah,
remember to enjoy.
very,
Um, and
everywhere.
I say things like that. I know I told you this story. I had not spoken about this story
Yeah.
until after I wrote it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do
You
the
told me
story.
that.
And I said, when I was in the hospital that time where
Mm.
they were trying to figure everything out, and I thought I'd never get out. One of the hardest things for me was thinking, I'm never going to see my dog again. And
Hmm.
I know that maybe that sounds petty. I love my dog. People love it, but it was such a
People
heartbreaking
plus
thing because I thought, well, you can call
people
somebody up by
ain't that
phone. We can video
I
chat.
have
I can say goodbye, but
back
I'm not
the
even a chance to say goodbye to my
big
dog. And so my dog is 13 and he's gone blind with cataracts. He's a
Yeah.
little bit deaf, but otherwise physically he's doing great. He's just lying next to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that morning when I wrote this, the morning before I wrote this, I was thinking about what we're going to say,
Mm.
all this kind of stuff. But I got busy. I'm busy again. I'm
Mm-hmm.
living life. I have projects. I have things to do. It's kind of cool. Some of them are interesting. Some of them boring. Right? It's like real life.
Life.
That's life, right? And I got busy. And what I like to do is wake up early and go for walks in the morning because it's hot here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, I'm not going to be able to walk today. Maybe I'll walk in the afternoon. And I have a Fitbit, and I look at it, and like I give myself leeway. I was way ahead of my goals. I was like, and he came over, and he had sitting at my desk. He had laid his head on my foot.
Oh.
Okay, and at that point, I realized that he hadn't taken his walk.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Um, and I said, how can I do this to him? I mean, like I had that feeling of,
Yeah.
oh no, so we went for a walk. And so this is kind of weird. Fitbit, right? We're all kind of tech geeks.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah. I've
right?
got
So
my aura ring.
uh-huh. So before I got sick, I used to when I went for a walk, it was somewhere between 60 minutes and 18 minutes a mile.
Okay.
Now if I go walking alone, I can do 21. And I'm kinda scared to push too much harder. 20 is probably gonna be what I can do. I'm
Okay.
My stamina has suffered, I'm trying to build it up.
You will.
Um, but when I walk with him, I walk at about a 24-minute pace. Okay.
Just so you're
Yeah,
sauntering.
because I'm seeing my person. I'm responsible for whether he misses a curb or he can't see. I have to worry about where he's walking, and I have to worry about the length of the leash. And dogs don't tell you in advance. I'm going to go right. I'm going to go. You got to
Mhm.
kind of have it all conscious. It's a little bit of work to do it. And so when we went for the walk that afternoon, I know for a fact it was a 26:40 pace.
Mhm.
But we really slowed it down. We went to walk for almost a mile. It's a little bit under half an hour. And it was the most perfect walk because I was so fully present. And I remembered that feeling in the hospital.
Mhm.
And, he's walking along and it's funny because he's older and he still has a spring in his step. He's a little Labradoodle and they walk with that little prancy, springy
Mhm.
step. And he's just loving it. And it was the most wonderful thing. It was one of the best things I've done in my life. I don't have a top 10. I just have things that are the best.
Mhm.
It was among the best things in my life. So the gift, I hate to call it that. I sometimes
Yeah,
I
but
get
there are
cynical,
gifts.
right? But I can get cynical about people who will talk about things
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I'm just telling you that the gift is that I really realized what life was. When my dad was sick, my dad had mantle cell lymphoma, and he was expected to live less than 6 months. He lasted 6.5 years.
Wow.
Okay, um, and it was 4 or 5 years in, and I asked my dad if he had any regrets. I remember asking, and my dad said, with laughter, with like dismissing me in the best possible way. He's like, "No, absolutely not, none. My life's been great." And I remember hearing that and thinking, I understand it. And it was very comforting because he
Uh-huh.
really meant it, right? It was totally sincere. And I remember thinking something that isn't untrue. It was just shallow. And I said, he has no regrets because everything he did got him to where he is. And this is his life and everything else. But I didn't realize it till now, right? That
Mhm.
what he was saying to me was he got to play with his granddaughter.
Mhm.
Okay. He got to have a Sabbath meal with us.
Mhm.
He got to he got to live
Yeah.
and really live, and I understood it. I wish I would have understood it then, but I think it's hard to understand without the full experience,
Mhm.
right? But if I can tell anybody, I've said it to some of my good friends, and they've said, "Oh, you must be so grateful." And I was like, "Yeah, guys, I'm my two friends were together, and I said, um, I hate to say this, guys, but you know what? Why aren't you so grateful?"
Mm.
I was like, "You have grandkids, you have this, you have all these good things." I said, what makes it different? Like, what's different? Like, my next minute and your next minute are identical,
Mhm.
and it's just a choice. And one of them told me recently that it affected him profoundly. I mean, he told me that
No.
a few weeks ago, and he just said, I just, you said that. He's a little older than I am. He's about 10 years older. He just said, sometimes you don't really stop and think. They were in touch with me the whole time. They knew what was going on. And
Mhm.
when I just said that, it kind of rocked his world. I don't know about the other one. Maybe when he listens to his podcasts, right?
Maybe.
Um, but um, I apologize. This is
Why apologize? This is you feel deeply. You're deeply grateful and
yeah,
present in your
and I
life.
want to share it because I want whoever's watching to know that whatever turns out, this is hard. It'll be hard. If it's for you, if it's for a loved one, it's just life.
Right.
It can be wonderful and it's horrible. And all of that can be true at the same time.
Okay. We choose what we make of it. Right. And so, what I like, I love what you're doing, Joe.
Thank you.
We've known each other for a while. We haven't been
Long time.
close friends, but we've known each other for many years and we share a lot of circles and it's a lot in common. I've always thought like, if I lived close, we'd probably hang out
Right.
more, right? Um, and but I saw what you were doing and I said, this is awesome. This is a great
Thank
podcast.
you.
Um, but I haven't listened to all of I hadn't
That's
heard this
okay.
perspective that I had, and I wasn't even sure. Remember when I first talked to you, I didn't open up this way. I've actually I talked with my therapist about what I think and I gave myself permission to not filter it.
I thank you. And I really hope I honor the trust and you know,
Yeah, it's
the power of this conversation. I mean,
you put
you are
yourself
helping people.
right. You put yourself out there the same way, and I saw it, and I said, no, actually, this is the thing that has to be done because um there's a lot of talk out there
Mhm.
about blah blah blah. Okay. And a lot of it, some of it is great.
Sure.
I'm not bringing it, but there's so much of it that's so shallow and so like, you know what? No, don't let anybody tell, oh yeah, this is you'll beat it, you'll this, you'll that. Um rah rah talk or no, none of that.
Right.
Just right? What's the real? And even the real, even some of the best things come out of this
Awful thing.
awful thing,
Yeah.
okay? Right? The some of the things that you realize about your life, that you think about, they completely shift, right? And so that's just part of growing. There's a part of me that wishes it never happened.
Well, that's good because that's normal.
Right? And there's a part of me that's just even grateful for this that says, like my dad, I don't have a regret because um, walking bocce was one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've been to Rome and Zurich and Jerusalem and Istanbul and I've been amazing places all over the world. I've done wonderful things in my life. And yet
That
walking my
26.
dog,
Right. 26 minutes walking with your dog.
yeah, was as good as any of it, and so how do you replace that,
You don't
right?
have to.
So no, that's what I'm saying is so kicking cancer's ass, I hope that if you're the one with the cancer, you go ahead, you kick its ass, okay? If you're somebody who's dealing as a caretaker or somebody in your family, I hope they win, but it's kinda not the point, okay? Um we spend too much of our lives thinking that wait until, right?
Hmm.
Like when this happens, this is how I'll feel. When I'll enjoy it, I'll do this. I wrote a New York Times bestseller at the same time as we did an IPO. Now the IPO didn't turn out. That was a whole different story, but it was all basically in the same um time frame.
Mhm.
And I remember both of those things. I was on the road. I was stressed out. I was feeling miserable. I remember speaking with Brian, my brother, and like, yeah, yeah, we should celebrate. And in building the company that we built, we celebrated the first time we had a newsletter subscriber whose email address we didn't recognize. We high fived. We were all excited about it more than getting on the New York Times bestseller list.
Hmm.
Okay. It just tells you that when you live life, you miss these opportunities to enjoy, to know how good it is. There was so many things like that
Yeah.
where I wish my regret is that I couldn't have that moment back, right?
Yeah.
I can't I couldn't celebrate the way that I wish I could have celebrated. We didn't know that we were gonna do that, that's the kind of thing. It comes out, and I remember our agent called us up and said, "Oh, I know that it's gonna be come out tomorrow, that's how it's gonna be published." We knew before the times that you did, they let you know,
Mm-hmm.
and what should have been one of the best moments was not, right? And at the same time, the walking the dog is. So, maybe I'm just
I think it's about
I'm not sure I'm being as articulate as I need to be.
no, you're doing
But
great.
but I'm talking to the listener and
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
I think you hear my heart.
I
I
do.
want you I want whoever's listening to know that, um, the most important thing is that if you're watching, you're alive. Hopefully, the person who has the cancer and you, the person taking care of them or whoever's, you're alive. There's a whole lot you can learn. There's lots of things to do, but the main thing to do is not forget that in every moment that you're alive, you can enjoy it. You can make it wonderful.
I think that's a perfect place to end. And it is beautiful. Jeffrey, I can't thank you enough. Your story is, I mean, I can't even believe it's only been in the last few years.
Mm.
But I think
Thank you for letting me tell it.
oh, it is my honor and my pleasure. And I hope it helps. I hope it helps people because I've now talked to hundreds of people that have been on this journey, and we all end up where you are, even if they don't end up living. I mean, none of us live forever, but there is an awareness of the gift of small things, the walking the dog, the phone call with your brother, the smell of a food that you just love.
Yeah, yeah, it's all
It's
good.
all good.
Worth being around for.
It's all
Notice it.
worth being around for. And I think in another way, while this I think will be very helpful to people listening, it's also a love story and a thank you to Mia.
Yeah, I can't believe it's so early.
Well, may you both have,
Yeah, I don't know what I ever did that I deserve that. I have
well,
no idea. Um,
well, show gratitude, right? Appreciate.
yeah, and yet, of course, I'm like anybody else. Do I sometimes get irritated and not have patience or the same with her, right?
We're
You're human
humans.
beings. We do that stuff, but yeah, no. I mean, I know she knows. Okay,
Good.
I wish she could feel every moment how deep the gratitude is.
I'll bet she does. I'll bet she does. Jeffrey, thank you so much for being on. And I hope your message reaches lots of people, whether they're facing cancer or, frankly, anything else. These setbacks are life, and the moments, I call them happiness tripwires. That's my branded name for them.
I
But
like it. Happy to tripwires.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
And they're all over. You just have to trip over them. And you can instrument them or you can just look for them. But thank you for giving me a lot of happiness today. Kohavod on sharing and on your wisdom.
thank you, and you're welcome.